Good evening. I'm Mark Smith. And again, I want to welcome you to the Process Live Roundtable. Before I get started tonight, I want to send and ask you to send all your prayers and up wishes to the families and friends and everybody who was in the path of Ida. That horrific hurricane has done so much damage across the Gulf Coast. And again, our hopes and our prayers are going with them. You know, we've taken our show on the road for a good reason. The last time that we got together, we were in Orlando, Florida. That's right, the home of Mickey Mouse. Tonight, I am so blessed to come to you from a place where I grew up, Columbus, Ohio, my hometown. You know, I've often thought about some things in my life that are in my past and how they form some key attributes to my present, which sets the stage for my future, or as I profess, my legacy. My show tonight holds a special conversation that every single person not listening, listens to, and who will match and actually watch the replay has encountered. And that element is fear. If you recall, if you heard it before, in season 2 of The Process, The Perfect Storm, I wrote a very powerful episode on this very topic and how it has held everyone captive from reaching their levels. So tonight, we're going to go back into fear, which is false evidence appearing real, and really take a deep dive with 2 special friends of mine. You know what? No more talking. The stage is already set, and it's time to welcome you to The Process Live. Let's get started. All right, let's go. I want to introduce my friends. But first, before I introduce my friends, I want to remind you, this program is interactive. Those of you that are listening, please dial in, send your questions in, send your comments in. I want to dialogue back and forth with you, and I'm sure that their information want to dialogue back and forth with you. So if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, again, please ask questions. We would love to answer your questions and bring this roundtable and include you in this roundtable. Also, as you've seen at the very beginning, we have processed merchandise that we're going to talk about at the end. That's going to be released through Dibble and Dab on September 16th. So just 15 short days. The first young lady that I want you to meet tonight, she's right there where I live. She's in the DMV. She's got a lot of information. She's actually has her own show as well, but she brings a lot of passion and energy to everybody she comes in contact with. So I'm happy to welcome Miss Dena Bilbrew. Dena, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Mark. How are you? Thanks for having me.
No, thank you for joining. Before we get started, tell our listeners a little bit about who you are.
Sure. I am a career and life coach, and I work with people who feel stuck. I work with people who need a plan and people who want to reinvent themselves. I work with them one-on-one, or I work with them in a group to help them identify their pain points so that we can come up with a plan to help them overcome. And I'm also from Mississippi, a small town in Mississippi, and I currently live in the DMV area.
All right. Thank you. Dena was also on my podcast, The Process, on star107fm.com a few months ago. So she shared some powerful information. So again, thank you for being here with me tonight. Man, the next friend that's going to join us, you talking about 40 plus years of history. I mean, we go back from high school through intertwined in a little bit in college, but we always staying close. And it's always so great to have an opportunity to speak with him and see what he's doing. And I'm sure he's going to tell you a little bit more about that. It's Dr. Gregory Smith out of Philadelphia, PA. So, Dr. Smith, good evening.
Good evening. How are you, Mark? Hello, Dena. How are you? Yeah.
So, Greg, tell our listeners a little bit about who Dr. Greg Smith is.
Well, in a nutshell, like you said, we grew up in the same hometown, Columbus, Ohio. I left there to go to college, haven't moved back. I've seen the world, I've been around the world, went out, got educated, and I've been in the Philadelphia area for the past 23 years. I'm a university administrator in student and academic affairs.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, getting us started tonight, this is the Process Roundtable. So again, we talked a little bit about how we're going to forward back and forth with each other. But before we get started, I'm going to start with you, Greg. The same question that is going to go, you're going to pose it to Dena.
Okay.
The process. I know the process means a lot of different things to different people. I've always said that a cake is a cake. You need a heat source to bring that cake to manifestation. It's about what you put in it. Mm-hmm. So what does the process mean to Greg and his life?
Well, the process is, in short, being able to set and achieve goals and help others along the way. Anybody can help themselves, but it's about not only uplifting yourself, but trying to uplift others around you. So it's about being selfless, at the same time, being cognizant of your situation and doing something relevant to improve your situation as well as others.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Dena, what about you? What does the process mean to you?
The process to me means the steps or the stages or the phases that a person has to go through to get from where they are to where they ultimately need to be. You know, it's the good, the bad, the ugly, the lessons, everything that you learn in life to get you over to the other side, as I like to always say. And I've really come to realize that a lot of times we don't even know who we are yet until we go through the process. And your process is something that is uniquely designed for you to get you to that other side, to where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Now, I always like to tell everybody too that pivoting is not the end of the disruption process, but the beginning of the next leg of your journey. So the process to me, again, as I write about and as I continue to write about, means we are continuing to evolve. Every single day, we are putting our pants on, putting our skirts on, putting our jackets on, our coats on, our hats on, and we're stepping out to be the best you, the best me that we can always be. And sometimes it's a challenge. Oftentimes it's a challenge, but we'll talk about this in a few minutes. That challenge is so worth it at the end of the road. So again, thank you for getting us started. Fear. I talked about at the very beginning. One of the things that I know is that, and we talked about it, Les Brown said that the wealthiest place in this world is the graveyard. And that's only because that's where most individuals, most dreams, goals, and opportunities have gone awry because people didn't take advantage of those or didn't act on their actions because of fear. So I always say fear is false evidence appearing real, which is fear. So I'm going to start with you first, Dena. Of that acronym of fear, the first word that comes out or first word that comes to mind with you, what is that and why?
The first word that comes to mind with me is false. False evidence appearing real. I don't think we have to go past the word false, because so many times we think of so many things in our head. We think of so many different scenarios that, could go wrong, may go wrong. And a lot of it never even happens. Probably 80, 85% of it never even happens. So a lot of times, we think about the negative side of it, and all of it is false. Fear is false. You want to focus on what you know to be true, and the end part, real. What is real to you in your life? And real is that you're going to get through this. You're going to make it over to the other side. You're going to achieve your goals. And so a lot of times we put all these things in our head. We don't get past that false part. And I think a lot of times that hinders us, and that keeps us in a state of fear.
Thank you. Thank you. False. Dr. Smith, what do you think?
Well, I think the next word, evidence, is certainly the next place to start. For me, with the acronym FEAR, evidence is where I would begin, although it's not the first word, because to me, it's about a body of work. It's about proof, facts, evidence. What has a person done? People can tell you anything, but what their actions show you what they're really about. I can't say enough about different things we say. I can show you better than I can tell you. And that's a true statement. So the evidence, the body of work, these are the things that really demonstrate what a person is about, where their head is. To piggyback on what Dena said, if their mind is not wrapped in a positive light, they begin to harbor on false things that are not real, things that are imagined or perceived.
Before I get into mine within that, I'm going to come back to you, Dena. Where in your work and your messaging and the information that you share with other individuals who are trying to change their mindset for employment and employment coaching, what would you say is the biggest falsehood or false element that you see and you have to kind of get them to rethink?
Just knowing that whatever it is they're seeking is possible for them. Going back to what I just mentioned, that false part, that they don't think that they're worthy. They don't think they have the skills. They don't think that they deserve it. They don't think that they can do it. They don't think that they can get to where they want to go. So a lot of times with, career coaching, I have to just go to the lowest level and just a lot of times motivate them. I have to just motivate them and tell them you can do this. Your resume does speak to your skills. You can interview, you can get the job, and you are worthy of the job. So a lot of times it's just, again, that false evidence that's appearing real to them, the things that they think about themselves, the negative things they think about themselves that we have to overcome. We have to overcome that pain point before we can even get them to their desired goal.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. For me, it seems like we're going right down the line, and this wasn't scripted. The number one for me would be appearing. Our mind can and has, all of us have played tricks on us. And I've always said that obstacles and opportunities go hand in hand. The difference lies is how we perceive it. So if I see or things appear in my mind to be not going so well, then that is going to be my mantra. That's going to be the attitude that I shape myself with. And that often is what I see is one of the biggest hurdles in that fear aspect, is how it appears. And somebody may come and tell us that this cup that I have in my hand is blue, and this cup really might not be blue. This cup is another color, but we perceive that and actually act on that as something that's going to hinder us from getting to where we want to go. So I believe that appearing everything in our life gives us an opportunity to rethink where we need to go. It's about change. Again, I talked about, it's about changing your mindset. Dr. Smith just said something that was powerful. He talked about it's the body of work. He talked about the evidence aspect of it. So if things appear to me as if they are going to go well, I put the work in for them to go well. I have evidence and proof that it is going well. Then there's nothing anybody else that can take from me to make that statement. What do you think, Dr. Smith?
Well, absolutely. It's balance. BALENCE. If you see a thing that you want and you go after it, certain behaviors get you closer to it. Once you learn those behaviors, you repeat those behaviors. If you find certain behaviors get you away from your target, then if you don't want that target, you continue to do those behaviors. But if you do want that target, you eliminate those behaviors from your pattern of practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so you become the best version of yourself toward getting or achieving the goal that it is that you're out to set. Sister Dena mentioned self-worth. Self-worth is critical because self-worth leads to self-value, which leads to self-esteem, which leads to self-confidence, which leads to self-efficacy, which leads to self-actualization. All these things have to have a platform, and one, they're stackable. And next thing you know, you're on top of your game. But it starts with knowledge of self, knowing who you are, understanding your condition, and doing something relevant to improve your condition. So I'll stop there.
We know you can go, so we'll come back. We'll definitely come back to that. Again, I agree. I have to piggyback off what you said, because what Dena said is right. A lot of times the self-worth is that's huge. That is so huge on our next steps. If we feel downtrodden, if we feel like we're not worthy, then that's the actions that we're going to take. And those are the things that, again, I talk a lot about my messages about the first thing that we do in the morning, most of us, is look in the mirror. And from there, that perception of who we are, what we feel inside, is going to carry over. And if it's an individual who has low self-esteem, that's going to carry right in there. But it has to come a point to where we have to relieve ourselves from that and believe who we truly are. So I just have another question, while we're staying on that subject. Dena, how do you, I know there's no magic bullet. How do you get these individuals, the men and women that you talk to start to turn that corner and see successes, evaluate the small successes? Because like Greg said, everything does build on its own. You get one win, then you look for the next win. The next win, you look to the next win. We're curious of how you get these individuals to actually believe in themselves to take the next steps.
Well, a lot of times I tell them, to be mindful of their talk. Be mindful of how you're talking to yourself, and be mindful of how you're thinking about yourself, because you're with yourself more than you're with anybody else, right? You're with yourself 24 hours a day. And a lot of times in your own mind, in your own head, you can talk yourself out of it. And so I always encourage people to talk positively to yourself, talk positively about yourself. Be careful about not speaking negatively over yourself. I'm really big on affirmations, and I'm really big on having people every morning when you wake up, and like you said, when you look in that mirror, find one thing about yourself that you like. Find one thing about yourself that you like, even if it's a physical attribute or if it's just something about yourself that you like. And you just start building on that slowly, day by day, and really start to get to like yourself, start to believe in yourself, start speaking positively over yourself, and then you can start to have those small wins, and you can start to, like Dr. Smith said, you can start to build on those wins. But a lot of times it's really just the way you think about yourself, the way you talk about yourself, and those conversations that you're having in your own head.
Thank you. Before we get to the next one, I want to switch gears for a quick moment. I want to start with you, Dr. Smith. When was and this question may catch you off guard, your journey. Again, I'm familiar with some of your journey, as well as some people are who know you're familiar with a lot of your journey. When was the last time that you sat down and, as a facilitator, as well as an instructor and as an author, unpacked your journey toward growth to get to where you are?
I unpack it often because I share my experiences with other people. And so that's kind of cathartic for me, because I know where I'm from. I started at the bottom. Now I'm here. I'm not at the top, but I'm not at the bottom. And I'm making my way toward my journey, on my journey toward my goal. To me, it's not about me. It's about trying to empower and help other people. Sister Dena mentioned mindfulness, staying positive, having positive self-talk. She mentioned affirmations, never affirming self-limitations. If the world is against me, they don't need my contribution. All right, I'm not going to help hold myself back. So I'm going to try to surround myself with healthy people, eliminate unhealthy or toxic people from my circle, and then I'm going to celebrate myself more. I'm going to make a conscious effort to celebrate my accomplishments more. I have to be my own best cheerleader. In the process, I can turn my positivity onto other people and make it become infectious. So I can infect other people, and then they can turn around and pay it forward and infect other people. And through the butterfly effect, a whole bunch of people can get infected with what I'm spreading.
Mm-hmm. You know, I use the adage when I talk to individuals in the workshop I facilitate. We have a day where we call it a gender day. So on that day, we actually tell everybody our past, present, and our future. And one of the things that I often close with, and I close with it emphatically, is I want to infect 10,000 lives. And when I get to 10,000, I'm going to add another 10,000. When I get to that 10,000, I'm going to add another 10,000, because it is very doable. That's why I let change 2021. Same question, Dena. When was the last time in your journey of success, when was the last time that you unpacked your growth?
It's interesting that you should ask that question, because it wasn't too long ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I'm currently in a transition. And I had a situation come that just really kind of knocked me off my square, so to speak. Didn't really see it coming, and really just kind of allowed it to get me unraveled for about 2 or 3 days. And I always tell people that even though I'm a career coach and a life coach, sometimes the coach needs a coach. Sometimes I need someone to speak into me, or sometimes I have to speak into myself. Sometimes I have to tell myself quietly or silently what I say out loud to other people. And recently, over the past couple of weeks, I had to do that to myself. And I talk to myself all the time. So I had to say, Dena, what do you know to be true? You've been here before. You didn't see it coming, but if you really think about it, this is something that you were hoping for, you were wanting for, and this is really something that you caused to happen to yourself. You spoke it into existence, as I mentioned, those affirmations and that self-talk before. So once I got out of my feelings, as you would say, I really started just, thinking about who I am, thinking about my journey, thinking about what I'm here for, what my purpose is, and I had to just remind myself. And I think sometimes in life, things, people, situations happen to kind of knock you off your square, so you can get reminded, so you can get recentered, so you can realize and remember what your purpose is, so that you do have that determination, you have that motivation to move forward. So mine happened pretty recently, Mark, and it was something that, I'm still going through, but I'm confident I'm going to come out on the other side.
I have no doubt you're going to come out as a champion, the champion that you are. I always tell a story about when I was in my early 30s. I went to pay a bill, and one of the unique things about paying a bill when I was at that point, when I was living in Columbus, Ohio, is that you had to physically go to the establishment, whether it was cable, electric, water. You had to go. Wasn't no mailing in bills at that point. You went down there. So, young, hot-headed, ambitious. I remember sitting across from a young lady, wasn't a young lady, a lady who telling me it was through the electric company. And I remember asking the lady, sitting down, telling her, I said, ma'am, I need to make arrangements to pay this bill. And she said, well, she pulled her glasses down very slowly, looked down at me and said, son, we're in the business of renting electricity. And while I thought that was being crass, I realized once I walked out of there that lady is right. The only thing that I own and have control over is me. I don't control this electric. I don't control the gas. I don't control the cable. I'll never own that, but I can own me. So every day I try to sit back and pick apart something that was a message sender in my life that actually that helps continue to build me to as I always say, grow forward. So again, thank you guys for taking a moment and sharing that information. I want to go back to fear, because I've heard it. I pose it as false evidence appearing real. I've heard it say is forget everything and run. I've heard it used a lot of ways. But I want to get to that last one, that last letter, if anybody wants to share. I'm going to start with you, Dena, if possible. We asked for 2. You gave me the first one, which was false. What would be your second one that means the most to you, and why?
Well, real, the word real. Again, I think all of it ties together, because I think about evidence and I think about appearing as well. But what is real to you? Again, what do you know to be true? What do you know about yourself? What are the things in your life that are real? Because like you just said, you can't control anything else. A lot of times you can't control necessarily your atmosphere, your environment, or your, what happens to you necessarily, but how you respond to it is what you can control. So I think real, thinking about that, thinking about what is real to you, thinking about what your purpose is, why you're here, what are your skills, what are your abilities, and who you are. If you always go back to your core, always go back to who you know you are and what you know to be true about yourself, and think about what is real to you, I think that'll get you through a lot of life situations.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Smith, what about you?
My man. Well, when it comes to the real, as Dena alluded to, it's about substance. Substance over status. A lot of people have status, and they look the part, but they're not the part. And that's the purpose. They can hide behind the trinkets. They can hide behind the props. But what is really there? Where's the substance? Two people can have an expensive car. One person can own the car outright and have the pink slip. The other person's paying a monthly note on it. Both people have status, but only one of those persons has substance. So it's about being the genuine artifact. It's about being not being an imitation or imitator. It's about being your authentic self and owning whatever it is you bring to the table and loving yourself. So that's what real is from my vantage point.
Mm-hmm. Again, everybody who's listening, we want your participation. Definitely fire away a question for Dena, for Greg, for myself. Again, we want to be able to answer your questions, and we want your feedback. I always do a poll every week and break these down and ask which one means the most to you. So again, it's always encouraging to get your feedback and your position on this. For me, I think I did it a little different. I took 3 of the letters as my last one and dropped one. So I took the F, the A, and the R. I said far. Our journey in life is so far away, but yet still it's right at our fingertips. The E is what I talk about all the time with everybody inside of what they do, and that's excuses. Excuses. I recently talked about that George Washington Carver said 99% of all people who have failures, or 99% of all failures are people who make a habit of excuses. So if I'm pushing as hard as I can, if I'm pushing to make sure that I eliminate the things that are false, that appear to be false, and I know that I've got a far journey to make sure that I get to where I need to go, then I'm okay with that. Because now I've accepted where I am, like you talked about, Dr. Smith, being real. Like Dena talked about having self-worth and realizing who you are. I know it's not instantaneous. I know it's a ride. And I know it's a far drive. It's driving from here around the world and back just to get the information to where I truly need to go to be the best that I can be. So again, I want to thank each one of you for sharing those as well. I'm going to kind of shift gears and ask a quick question. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Smith. You and I, you told a story that was so impactful regarding stepping up for those who wouldn't have a voice for themselves. And it was with a situation with 2 individuals that we know. One is, unfortunately, rest his soul, is deceased. The other young man actually still is, he's doing quite well. Former student, friends of ours who played ball with us when you were in college. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about that story? And I'm going to tell everybody at the end why I asked you this question, okay, and why I'm going to ask Dena this question. So go ahead, sir.
Sure. The story I'm pretty sure you're probably referring to is out of high school. I wasn't a predictor. I didn't have a 2.0. So I ended up having to go to a community college because I could not accept a 4-year scholarship to play football. So I went to a community college, and I found a whole bunch of people around me in the same situation. Good people, but just not the best students, ill prepared. Well, my sophomore year at this community college, after taking college prep courses, because I had a mom who had gone to college, she told me what courses to avoid and which courses to take. 2 of my high school classmates joined me. They were good friends of Mark's, in Mark's class, actually. They both played the same position I played in high school, and they were coming to the same community college I was attending. And their schedule was such that it was underwater basket weaving, those types of courses that would not transfer to another college or university once these gentlemen had completed their athletic careers at this community college. So I went to the coaches and I said, hey, you guys got to change these guys' schedules. They don't know better, but I know better. And this underwater basket weaving has to end. Well, I caught a lot of flack for that. My playing time was diminished. But the young men, one stayed, one ended up going back home soon thereafter. I took it upon myself. I took the hit for the team, and those guys, they made out well as a result. And that's what it's about. It's about sticking up for one another and doing the right thing when opportunity presents itself.
Thank you. Now, Dena, when you and I talked, you talk about your willingness and your intestinal fortitude to just say, I'm relocating. I'm not staying here anymore. Something inside my spirit says it's time for me to pick up and go. You mind sharing that story with everybody listening today?
Sure. I was living in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex at that time, had been there for a number of years, and really just kind of grew tired of it, just really wasn't inspired anymore, and really just was down and out, the best way to put it. And I had been to the DC area a number of times, visiting, and I always liked the atmosphere, just like the whole energy and the vibe here in DC. And I started applying for jobs, looking for jobs at that particular point, and nothing just was coming through for me. And one day I remember I was getting dressed to go to work, and something was just dropped in my spirit that said, go. And said, the time is now. Don't wait for a job. You profess to be a believer, and, you believe in God, and you believe that, all your needs will be taken care of. Why are you waiting on a job to provide for you? The time is now. Go. And from the day I heard that voice, or that was dropped in my spirit, until the time I moved here was about 5 weeks. I just very quickly put in my 2 weeks notice at the job I had at the time, packed up my house, got everything situated. And then I moved here because I felt that the time was now. And I didn't want to live with regrets. I didn't want to look back and say, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda. What would have happened had I moved, had I not moved? I maybe would have still been stuck in Dallas to this day, just not enjoying life. But I'm glad that I moved here. I'm glad I listened to that voice. And I always encourage people, on the inside of you, when you're being told or you're being led to do something, I encourage you to follow it and just run on and see what the end will be.
Mm-hmm. I always say that we never lose. We always win, because even if we come up shorter than what we think or what we anticipated or what it appeared to be, we learn something. We learn a lot about ourselves. We learn a lot about our situations, and we learn a lot about what we need to do the next opportunity that we take. So again, I want to thank you both for sharing those stories. Those are the stories that everyone needs to know about one, stepping up for our fellow individuals, again, legacy changing, as well as not allowing anything to stop you from moving forward. Earlier I stated obstacles and opportunities go hand in hand. And that kind of tied back into what I said with appearing. So I also said that the difference lies in the way they're perceived. So I'm going to start with you first, Dena. Can you give our listeners an example of when an obstacle was an opportunity that was hand in hand, and the difference lied in how you perceived it?
Yes, I can think about several years ago when I got laid off from my job the first time. And I was in my 20s, probably about 26, 27 years old, young, and, didn't really know what to do. And it was devastating to me at that particular point, because I thought I was smart. I thought I knew it all, and I couldn't, imagine here I am with no job. And I ultimately had to move back home to Mississippi, where I was from. And I felt really depressed, felt like a failure, just felt like, I was very embarrassed to come back home, and, all of those things I'm sure you can imagine, that goes along with that. And that was an obstacle for me, so I thought, but it actually ended up being one of the best things that could have happened to me, because I needed to go back. I needed to go back home where it all began because I needed to understand who I was. I had to go back to my childhood home that I had grown up in, and I needed to go back. I needed to take that journey back now as an adult to see why I am the way I am. I need to be able to look at my hometown from a different perspective to appreciate, where I had gone. And so once I moved back home, I went to graduate school, got my MBA, and then moved into leadership positions, into management positions, which actually helped me. And that was a foundation for my success today. So what I thought initially was an obstacle turned out to be one of the best things that could have happened to me and got me along the path to where I am today, and why I'm a life coach and why I can motivate other people to let them know no matter what, you can make it. And it's not as bad as not as bad as you think it is.
Thank you. Dr. Smith.
Yeah.
My good friend.
Mhm.
Obstacles and opportunities go hand in hand. The difference lies in the way we perceive them. Can you share?
Yeah. Challenges are opportunities waiting to be resolved. When you have challenges, you have to find solutions to those challenges. Sometimes we have setbacks. Sometimes we have failures in life. And as a result, we're given the opportunity to maybe reinvent ourselves. We have to turn lemons into lemonade. We all experience failures at some point in life, disappointment at some point in life. Failing is okay. Failure is not okay, because failure is when you cease to continue to try to climb the mountain. So I use a lot of sports euphemisms. And one of the things I teach coaches and players is that after a loss, you learn more than you do after a win. After a win, everybody's celebrating, everybody's patting one another on the back. But it's after that loss that you have to go back and review the film to see where your missteps were, where you missed assignments, where you missed communication and things of that nature. So it's about learning from the failures, learning from the disappointments, and bouncing back.
Thank you. I just closed the process part 4. Why not me? And that series fell in line with everything else, and it was mainly driven to say enough is enough, kind of like both of what you've talked about today. Enough is enough. That I've worked extremely hard in putting this together. I know I go back and think about obstacles versus opportunities. Everybody knows I tell the story about the day December 15th. I'm sorry, 15th, 2018, when I walk into work and find out that the organization that I'm working for is closing their doors. Just right before Christmas, and I don't have a job. So feeling as though I've always contributed, I have to make that. I've got to make that phone call and go home and tell my wife, look, babe, it's around Christmas time and I don't have a job. I don't have a job anymore. But that led me to so many different opportunities that were movers. I want to say movers, because I've said before, and I say it all the time, comfort is a casualty of growth. And I became comfortable. I became comfortable in that mindset, comfortable in doing those types of things. And I needed to be shaken up. I needed to be rattled. My cage needed to be rattled so I can get off that ledge, get off that stage and step into the stands again, and then come back on the stage to make sure that things go well, which led to the process and where we are now. But one of the things that I think is so key is that we've all come across a lot of different people in our arenas. And one of the things that's hard to deal with a lot of times is, and why not me, is answering that own question. Why not me? So I'm gonna start with you, Dr. Smith. When you were going through all the things that you went through, again, I know some things. When did you say, from after you left school to being an athletic director at various institutions to molding and shaping young minds, when did you realize and say, why not me? Why shouldn't I be in this position to making a change to individuals in their life?
That's a good question. Kind of put me on the spot. Goals are something. I'm goal oriented, so I set goals for myself. Sometimes they're mini goals, and sometimes they're kind of what I can perceive to be far fetched goals. Um, I'm pretty. I've been very fortunate in that I've been able to set and accomplish a lot of my goals throughout my life, and as a result, I try to teach other people, to use your phrase, the process in order for them to be successful too. So success is the ability to set and achieve goals. So no matter what your goal is, if you succeed, you're successful if you achieve that goal. So if it's a big goal, if it's a small goal, if it's a positive goal or a negative goal, if you set it and achieve it, then you're successful. So that's helps people lift or boost their self-value, their self-worth, and all those kinds of things. So again, it's a process by which we have to take one step at a time.
Same question for you, Dena. When did you say, why not me?
Probably around the time that I launched my consultancy back in 2012. I had been working with a lot of people in the community. I had been helping family and friends, really just kind of doing it from a volunteer perspective. And then once I realized the impact that I was having on people, I realized that people, really were liking some of the things that I was doing. As I was doing some public speaking, I could see the light bulb go off in people's head and seeing them having that aha moment when I was sharing my knowledge, sharing my story, and just really just, dropping my wisdom into them. At that moment, I realized I can do this. And I said, I'm just as qualified as anybody else. I'm just as qualified as anybody else in the industry. I'm just as good as any of my other peers that are doing that. So why not me? Why can't I be the person to launch a consultancy? Why can't I have my own business? And why can't I be the one to help other people? So probably about 2012 was whenever I had that revelation, and I've been going ever since.
Great work. I talked earlier. I'm gonna come back to it again. I talked earlier about habits and how important, how central they are in what we do, and the way we're able to achieve things. And for me, I know that there was one habit that that stunted my growth, and that was listening. I know that I heard, but I didn't listen. And when you hear somebody, you don't fully get a chance to understand what they're saying and the magnitude that that has in your life. So I know that, again, habits are so key. Dena, is there one habit that you've had that you've broken, that you've seen your career or your life bolster since you took care of that habit?
It's probably the biggest habit that I broke was listening to other people, letting so many people put so much information into my head. Sometimes being that negative person. Why are you moving to DC? You don't have a job. Do you know anybody there? Why are you buying a house? Why are you doing this? All these things that people who, and I say this humbly, probably couldn't do some of the things that I've done. Talking to the wrong people who haven't been where where I'm trying to go, and letting them give me advice. So making sure that I'm talking to the right people. I believe Dr. Smith alluded to that, getting rid of negative people, toxic people, making sure I'm hanging around the right people. So getting those people out of my ear that are not going where I'm trying to go, and making sure I'm with the people who are, who have been where I'm trying to go, and let them pour into me and give me that encouragement that I need.
Right. How about you, Dr. Smith?
Yeah, to piggyback, birds of a feather do flock together. So we're judged by the company we keep. What has happened to me personally in my life and career, I saw positive changes come when I was able to help others see how they could create win-win situations. I was always about creating a win-win situation, but when you put the task on other people and ask them how they best see win-win scenarios being created, that made them shift their thought process. That allowed them to shift their approach. And so if they were a disgruntled employee or uncoachable student athlete, once you package it and give them that task, now they have to have the opportunity to shift gears and think through it and see things through a different lens. So I didn't have to try to force a win-win scenario. I asked them to create one. And in their efforts to create one, that changed their perspective and their performance, their outcome, their outlook.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And that made me successful in what I was doing because they changed. I didn't change them. They changed voluntarily.
Thank you. We got about 15 minutes left, so I'm going to kind of wind down with a couple of things I want to spend some time with. And we all alluded to it. We all talked about things that have occurred in our lives and how we reacted and what we did and what made a difference. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Smith, and then we'll pass it to Dena. If there was one word that you can lift somebody up with in the midst of their storm, what would that word be? And why did you choose that word? I want you to take your time with this one.
For me, it would be the word faith, or in Arabic would be Deen, D-E-E-N. So faith. I believe in probably a higher power. So you still gave me one word. That one word would be faith. Now that faith can be faith in oneself, faith in your family, faith in your higher power, but faith. I don't believe in hope. I don't believe in hope at all. I'm not hopeful about anything. I'm about faith. And I'm about putting work with that faith. The Bible says faith without works is dead. So you have to have faith, but you have to be able to put that work in too. But the first word, primary word, would be faith.
Okay. How about you, Dena?
Whenever you just said that just now, the first word that came to my mind was the word through. I thought about the word through. I'm going through the storm. And so if I were to encourage anyone as they're going through the storm, as you're in your storm, always think about the fact that you're going through. A storm doesn't come to stay. You know, some storms are worse than others, but always know it's not coming to stay and you are going through. So as I alluded to when I first, came on and I said, you're making your way over to the other side. You're going through the storm to get over to the other side. And so, try not to focus so much on your situation, even though it may be uncomfortable, it's uncertain. You think, I don't deserve it. Why is this happening to me? All those things that are perfectly normal and natural for you to think as a human, but always think about you're going through the storm. You are not staying in the storm. There were so many times in my life, I didn't know how I was going to make it. I didn't know if I was going to make it. I didn't know when it was going to end. And it was just, excruciating, but I always made it through. And so if I can encourage anybody, I would encourage you to think about the fact that you are going through the storm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you both. For me, I'm going to say it's the magic word of listen. In every storm, there's some unwritten words or unwritten elements that are spoken to us in our heart, in our mind, and in our soul. Those words sometimes become uncomfortable, but we have to listen. And once we listen to what those are, then we know the direction we're going. We know that, as you mentioned before, Dena, we know then we have the reassurance that it's temporary, because all storms give us a cue that I'm getting ready to leave you. I'm getting ready to leave you now. And I've given you something that you can carry with you. Through the faith that Dr. Smith talked about, through the perseverance that each one of us have gone through, we know that listening to those messages are going to be key. They're going to be essential because they're spoken to us, and sometimes we just don't listen to them. So again, I want to thank you all for sharing that information. We're going to get out of here in a minute, but before we get out of here, I have to ask. I want to give both of you an opportunity to truly tell our listeners how they can best get a hold of you. So I'm going to start with you, Miss Dena. How can our listeners get a hold of you, get more information from you, find out what the next steps in the process is for them to change their careers, find out what they need to do, give them some small homework assignment that they could do to start to believe in themselves, something to take with them right now so they know that I am listening and I'm ready to be recharged to reinvent myself so I'm not stuck anymore.
Well, the best way to get in contact with me is to look for me on all social media platforms. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on LinkedIn. And my name is such a unique name. So if you even Google me, if you even just Google Dena Bilbrew, I guarantee you will find me and that will be me. I'm the only one. So, and also my website is dbprofessionalconcepts.com. That should be coming up on the screen. And you can always send me an email. Now let's have a conversation. If you are at a point in your life where you're feeling stuck, you need a thought partner, you just need someone to listen, you need someone to motivate you, you need someone to just give you a plan, then I can be that person for you. I definitely can, help you with that. And if I could just give you one piece of homework to do is what I said earlier. Just take it one day at a time. And when you get up in the morning, look in the mirror and find one thing about yourself that you like, whether it's your smile, whether it's your eyes, whether it's your hair, or whether you just like the fact that you're a friendly person, or you just, like the fact that you woke up this morning and you're still here. I would just encourage you to think about how you talk to yourself, your self-talk, and how you think about yourself and how you're speaking over yourself.
I like that, wake up in the morning. That's a blessing right there. That's for sure. Dr. Smith.
Yes, the way to contact me is through my personal email. That's gsmithdr@gmail.com. If it's education related, if you're interested in going to college or you have somebody that's interested in furthering their education through higher education, you can contact me through my employer, Cheney University. That email address is gsmith@Cheney, that's CHEYNEY.edu. Like Dena, my one thing of advice would be to look in the mirror. And when you look in the mirror, for me, you have to do 4 things. The first thing is to tell yourself that you're beautiful. You have to repeat this while looking in the mirror 50 times. I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful, I'm beautiful 50 times. Then you have to say, I'm important 50 times. I'm important, I'm important, I'm important. The third thing you have to do is say how intelligent you are, how smart you are 50 times. All right. And the last thing is you have to find your purpose in life. It can't be what your parents or your children want you to do. It's about what your calling is, what you believe your calling, what your passion is, and be about that life. And therefore you can have meaning, add value to the world because you found your purpose.
Thank you. Thank you. Why should I send my child or my grandchild to Cheney State?
Well, not only because it's the first HBCU, but because we put students first.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate both of you for joining me tonight. It's truly a pleasure. I know our listeners got a lot of information. They got a lot of information. Like I always say, it's not about the information you get; it's about how you apply it. So hopefully I encourage everybody to apply all the information that you received tonight. Again, Dena Bilbrew, she gave you her contact information. Dr. Greg Smith, you have his. They're words of wisdom. I've always said 6 times, 6 separate ways is something I strongly believe in. And for all of us to revisit a message that's told from a different perspective is the only way that we can reach to where we truly need to go. So again, thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you.
All right. It's always special to have when you're around great friends and great people who actually are here to help you and they see exactly what you're doing. So again, it means so much for them to take the time to spend with me. And that's through any one of my friends who come on to the show. So, but I want to, before I get out here, there's a couple of things. I want to definitely thank each and every one of you for tuning in. I think it's so important that you have an opportunity to share what we're doing. You become involved in what we're doing and you believe in what we're doing. So again, I am truly humbled, honored, and blessed that you tuned in tonight. I want to thank Toya and Janet, the production team, who are always behind the scenes and make the project work so smoothly. Ladies, thank you again so much. I want a special thank you to Dibble and Dab for the graphics, the processed merchandise that all you need to do is start ordering on September 16th, as well as they have a lot. Dibble and Dab has a lot of other things from babies to dogs, things that will definitely are momentous occasions. But I'm going to close with a story that I think ties into the messages that not only I said, but what Dena and what Greg said tonight. Once there was a man who was walking along the beach. The sun was shining. It was a beautiful day. Off in the distance, he could see a person going back and forth between the surf's edge and the beach. Back and forth this person went. But as the man approached, he could see that there were hundreds of starfish stranded on the sand as a result of a natural action of the tide. The man was struck by the apparent futility of this task. There were far, far too many starfish. Many of them were sure to perish. As he approached, the person continued the task of picking up starfish one by one and throwing them back into the surf. As he came up to the person, he said, "You must be crazy. There are thousands of miles of beach covered with starfish. You can't possibly make a difference." The person looked at the man. Then he stooped down to pick up one more starfish and threw it back in the ocean. He turned back and looked at the man and said, "It sure made a difference to this one." So my question to each one of you is, whose life do you choose to make a difference in? The fact of the matter that someone has made a difference in each of our lives. Someone has made a difference in mine. And I know that you're making a difference in someone else's. It's so important that we are, as Dr. Smith talked about it and Dean alluded to, that we become selfless in what we do. We become the individuals who are willing to help change what needs to be changed. We talk a lot about getting things done and we complain a lot about getting things done. But when we look in our mirror, we can't hide. When we look in our mirror, we have a choice. When we look in our mirror, we make the statement that we are going to change a legacy in 2021. Don't forget to tune in to Star 107 FM on September 11th. A special day in world history. And as I release the process part 5, procrastination, the thief of time. Good night. God bless. And I will see each one of you soon. Stay safe. Take care of each other. Make each other the best that you can be.